Hi, Vaughn.
Hello, Evie. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Just
Excellent.
getting into the swing of things and how the weather changes and all of these things.
Oh my goodness,
And I
please.
don't sleep very well, so you can tell me a bit about that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And yeah, so today it's really talking about physical intelligence, positive intelligence and wellness, and how we can we can apply it, how we can use it around our well-being. And of course, sleep is a massive thing. We also will touch on fear and phobia, which is an interesting one, but understanding, why does that come under wellness? Well, because actually, if we feel incredibly fearful and we have phobias around things, that's absolutely impacting our nervous system. So, we know that the impact that can have on the body and on the mind. And then obviously dieting as well is a huge part of wellness. And I think we'll just spend a little bit of time looking at each of those, but let's start with sleep. And actually, I'd like to ask you, what is your sleep quality? How would you describe your sleep quality? Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Claudia. Well, sleep quality. It all depends. Depends like in the patterns, and if I follow certain patterns, then it's absolutely no problem. The moment I break my patterns, then it goes out the window, like the good quality of sleep.
Yes.
And I think that that sort of like, I don't know if it is related to age at all, but I find that I need more sleep to be energized, and I'm quite happy to go to bed earlier these days than in the past, and enjoyed my 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, depending.
Excellent. Yeah, like you. I mean, I love sleep. I think as I look back over my life and think of the times when I just didn't really appreciate the value of it. I've always been a relatively decent sleeper, but I didn't really appreciate the value of it. And I definitely think that as I have aged, I've definitely realised. I mean, being in the fitness industry, I realised that it was important. But I think for myself personally, I've realised it more and more as I've aged that actually, when I have quality sleep, and I'm saying quality because for me, I don't always think in terms of the length of the sleep, but the quality, the depth of the sleep. What REM state do I get into? That usually that means more to me than anything else. And I think it's always interesting because we go back to this, ideally 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which is all wonderful and great. However, there's a part of me that still believes that's not necessarily true for everyone across the board, and that actually when you have other modes of calming and relaxing the body, sometimes the length of the sleep that you have at night isn't necessarily the 7 to 9 hours that are the guidelines. And so what I mean by that is, like, I meditate every morning. I do my PQ reps throughout the course of the day. I have what I would say is like my nervous system, in terms of my parasympathetic nervous system kicking on and keeping me calm and in that, is much better than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So when I sleep for 5, 6 hours, I can wake up feeling as refreshed as if I'd had the 7 to 9 hours sleep. Because for me, those resources are helping me to stay in a much more calm, relaxed state throughout the course of my day. And that definitely, and again, I want to talk personally, I'm not talking about this from the science perspective, is that for me has just been gold. And actually also learning not to try and force myself to go to sleep, because sometimes I think that we put pressure on ourselves to sleep, which of course just kicks in the stress. It's just like, I've got to sleep, I've got to sleep, why aren't I sleeping? All of that comes up, and really all we're doing is raising our cortisol, because now we're just feeling stressed about the fact that we're not sleeping. And how
Yes.
helpful that is not going to be helpful.
Yeah, thankfully I don't have to, I mean, very rarely I'm in that state. If I, like the time comes for me to sleep, that's I'm out. And I'm out, and yeah, I think I can be lifted with my bed, and nobody, I will be none the wiser. So, um, and I didn't realize that, as you said, the quality of the sleep, how important it was, until I got myself like one of those Fitbit thingies that I could actually go through and see how I've done
Yes.
over the night, and it was quite interesting, because like while I was doing the meditation, because I also meditate in the morning, just before I wake up, really, and you can see during that time the depth of the sleep, or
Yes.
the quality of the sleep during the time of the meditation,
Yes.
which is not really the sleep, it's just like the state that you're in, I suppose, your heart rate, and like
Yes.
how things are. So that has helped quite a lot, and also it makes you, once when you are monitoring things like that, you are becoming much more curious about
Yes.
how to make it even better, or what to look for, and so yeah, uh,
Yeah.
fabulous points that you're making there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know certainly from my own experience is, and this has probably been quite recent, I've been listening to some amazing meditations where they literally, there's no music, it's just somebody's voice, and actually the people who do the two women in particular that I follow on Insight Timer who do this just have the most, like, sink into voices, like, you just want to sink into their voice. And it's just like, just trust your body to do what it does. And it kind of does some of like the PQ body scanning stuff that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
And I if I were to say I don't do it every single night, but if I was to say for every 10 times that I use those specific meditations, 9 times out of 10, I will go to sleep. I will be asleep before the end of the meditation. And there'll be the odd time when it just hasn't figured it out. And that's maybe because I've overstimulated myself in some shape or form. Um, but they really do work, and it is literally just allowing the body to go into a complete state of relaxation. you know just close your eyes and allowing, and whether some people use counting, some people use breath patterns, there are all these things that you can tap into, and of course making sure that your environment is ready for you to sleep in. Make sure there's no kind of unnecessary lights that are on and things like this. I have started to switch my phone off completely now, which, and I don't know whether that has helped or not, but I do it because I think it's a good thing, because it's too easy to pick your phone up, to check the time, to do whatever and all that stuff. So I just switch it off and move it away, and that's great for me. And interesting, I'm just looking, Claudia's posted a note there saying guidelines on food, sleep, exercise never work for me, but PQ reps and nervous system exercises always work. And yeah, I would support that. I think that, good guidelines are great because it just helps people who are like, I have no idea, what I need to be doing, what I need, etc., etc. Just take them as a starting point and be curious. And then if they don't figure out for you, be more curious. And so, well, what else could I do? What are the other things, tools, resources that I could tap into? Because a lot of sleeping is a little bit about the power of your self-command, your ability to be able to switch yourself off, mind and body, just to turn all the noise down and to take yourself into that place where everything is relaxed enough for you to be able to get that quality sleep, and not get fixated if it's not 7 hours. Oh my gosh, I've not had enough sleep. You know, if you get 5 hours but you feel good when you've woken up, why are you fixated on 7 hours, right? So for me, there's a bit of that has to happen.
Yeah, like you said, I think that you know, when you are like a novice in anything, just be curious, because like everything, I think there is a uniqueness in how you deal with things, especially when it comes to, you know, your wellness and your body and how you are generally. So I strongly believe that you shouldn't really just get in a thing and say, okay, that's it, and do
Yeah,
absolutely nothing else, because you don't know how well something else might work for you. So
indeed.
that is important. And I quite like what the comment Claudia is making now, and says
Yeah,
that you know, but don't you feel a failure if you're not aligned? And
yeah.
well, you
But
know,
don't feel a failure. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think that some people might feel this way, but I would say try not to, because why should you feel a failure? The only difference is that like there might be something that works for you better and than somebody else.
yeah,
So are they a failure because it doesn't work for them? Um,
absolutely. And the
so
guidelines, they're not, you know, so because I do think what happens is everything becomes a statement of fact. And it's this, and if it's not this, then you're wrong, or and all this kind of craziness kicks in. And I think for me, that's the bit about saying, actually, if the guidelines that you are following or attempting to follow don't work for you, just be curious about that and think, well, what else is there that I could try for? So for me, the ability to explore and experiment is really important. um and yeah, you know, yes, Claudia, you know, you think about when we talk about saboteurs, you know, the perfectionist, which, you know, everything must be like, if that's what they've said, then it must be like. So this is where it's so important for us to know those patterns that drive us, so that we understand, I see what's happening. I can see why I'm feeling this amount of pressure, why I'm feeling like I'm missing the mark, because this is something that this pattern is really strong in me. And then I need to work on that pattern. And through doing the work on the pattern, actually be able to come to a place where you become more accepting, or you look for the gift, right? Opportunities,
true. That's
right?
it.
There's
That's
always
it.
something in there. And yeah, for me, when I got past the, I haven't had 7 hours sleep thing, and I'm not a perfectionist, but you know, it kind of almost like bugged me a little bit for a while. I just thought, actually, how do I feel? And the minute I went back to how do I feel, I'm like, but I feel fine. I feel great. I can get up and I can function. There's nothing wrong with me. So why am I even concerning myself like with this 7 to 9 hour thing? So for me, it was just coming back to the body. How do I feel? And that for me tells me everything I need to know. The body has wisdom. The body will tell you what you need. And if you trust it, you know, and that can take some work, but if you trust it, it will deliver. And if you end up being able to function on less sleep, fantastic. If you need the 7 to 9, fantastic. If you need more, providing it's not all day, yeah, great. Right. That could be a whole other thing. But, you know, but finding that thing and not getting into the comparison trap where somebody else is saying, oh, but you should have, but you must have, and then thinking, oh, but I'm not meeting these benchmarks, therefore there's something wrong with me. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Um, so I think sleep, and also just knowing, obviously, as you age, that you know, your sleep
Things
patterns
change.
may
Yeah?
become less
Yeah.
consistent. But that's, you know, that's okay too. Again, it's about finding what works for you. And actually, I was listening to Shazad, and he was talking about this. aging thing and the less consistent in the pattern of sleep. And he was explaining how he's always been somebody who sleeps on his side. Me too. And then just saying that, what happens when you sleep on your side is that you sleep on one side, and then at some point you have to flip over onto the other side. And so you kind of may spend time waking yourself up doing this flip-flopping from side to side. So he trained himself to sleep on his back. So literally, and he said it was a training. So this did not just happen one night and suddenly, yes, I can sleep on back and everything as well. He trained himself to sleep on his back. But in doing so, that flip-flopping and that waking up went. So that was his find. And so this is what I mean is that, be bold in your experimenting to find what works for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I would not even consider sleeping on my back. I would be like, are you crazy? That's not possible. I cannot do it. Talking about a lot of saboteurs going around, yeah. But absolutely that. It's like you can listen to your body and you can train your body. And
Yes.
that is the beauty of it. And another thing is that you can control that because it's your body. And it is okay to, accept what your body tells you. So
Yeah.
that is definitely
Yeah.
it's something to take away. And as you said, comparison, whenever you compare anything, and that's not the only thing, but whenever you compare anything, then
Yeah.
start stopping yourself doing that. It's not a good
Indeed.
idea.
Indeed. And then so the other thing, and this is something that I'm going to say I kind of, it's not an area that I've spent an awful lot of time looking into, but this whole, fear, yes, because most people have some experience of fear, but fear and phobias. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, have I ever had a phobia? I thought, well, actually, yes, because I used to absolutely freak out at spiders. I mean, what I found fascinating with that is, as a child, I can remember being in the garden. I would pick spiders up, I'd put them on my hand, nothing at all. So what triggered that? I don't know. And I think that at some point, and I can actually picture this moment when we were living in, it was a big house. And I always feel like spiders grow to the size of the house. What is that, right? The bigger the house, the bigger the spider. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it felt like to me. And I remember seeing this spider, like it was like Usain Bolt across the floor, right? It was so fast, and it was big to me. I was, kind of a teenager then, and I just completely freaked out. I mean, I was feet off the floor, standing up on the chair, like, oh my God, like. And yet, still, there was a part of my brain that's thinking, "What do you think it's going to do?" Right? it was a little bit of that going on whilst I'm completely freaking out. But I was thinking about that in context with like the whole PQ thing and understanding that one of the things that, again, Shazad really talks about is this systematic desensitization where a situation completely freaks you out, puts you into a complete panic state, cortisol levels are high. Of course, the nervous system is being pulled in every direction it doesn't want to be pulled in. And how do you desensitize that? And it's almost like, well, if I know being in a room with the spider completely freaks me out, what's the thing before that where I can start desensitizing myself to that reaction? And so it could be that maybe I visualize being in a room with a spider, but if that still freaks me out too much, maybe I think about that moment just before I walk into the room where I'm feeling very calm, and then it's the stepping into the room that then brings on the thing. But actually starting to desensitize yourself. And when you're focusing on that bit where you need to desensitize, it's like, so I'm walking into the room. Now I'm already starting to feel that anxiousness. Now I need to do the PQ reps on the sensations, right? So doing the PQ reps on the sensations to bring that back down. so that you can start to calm the nervous system and get the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, which I found fascinating, because that's not what happened with me. I actually just got to a point where I just thought, Yvonne, this is just stupid and ridiculous, and I'm not doing this anymore. And so I went out of my way then to, if I saw a spider, instead of wanting to find things to throw at it, I would go and get a glass or a cup, and I would cover it, and then I would just open the front door and just put it outside, and just like, this is so bonkers, yeah, I don't even know what was going on for me. But anyway, and the minute I started to do that, all it meant is then when I saw a spider, it just didn't freak me out. I just thought, oh, just go and get a cup and put it out. If it's going to bother me, if it's going to distract me, just go get a cup and put it outside. Just do that. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever had anything on that, or maybe it's just a fear of whatever.
Well, okay, if I see it tarantula, I'll go a bit crazy, I think. But no, generally the English spiders, I don't have any problem with them, more or less. But what I did have a big problem with, it was cockroaches. And I know in the UK we don't really have cockroaches, but in Greece we do. And so as like I could not deal with a cockroach. I mean, I really could not. I like it is unbelievable. Like when people talk about phobias, when you are in that state, you realize how empowering, how powerful it is over the body, over the mind, over everything. It's your only reality, and it makes you powerless completely. Yes. And for absolutely, as you said, like not real reason, because okay, what will cockroach do? It's not really going to kill me, is it? But what I have done, and it is similar to what you did, and it was about just making things. I mean, changing the way that I think about the encounter. I'm not free of the phobia, for sure not. But I can be in the room with a cockroach and start having a discussion with it, just create a, okay, I mean, let's see what can we do here. Who is going to stay in the room and who is going to leave? Things like that. And yeah, I suppose there are certain phobias that are like way more powerful than others, or that can cause also problems in the way that you live, or how the decisions you make, and so on and so forth. But like for example, like, and I'm sorry for our friends in Australia, but I would not live in Australia, and I would the decision is made because I don't particularly like to cohabit, with creepy crawlies and stuff like that. That's just me. But so yeah, it can really affect your decision.
Absolutely. So I mean, even that is like, well, so I wouldn't know, that's not somewhere that you would want to travel to for those reasons. And I think another thing that came up for me when I used to work for British Airways, and I remember being on a flight with one of the passengers, with a couple, and the woman was, and when I say in tears, I mean like she was having a complete meltdown. And I just said, how can I help you? What's happening? Because I thought, well, is there an argument thing, or is this something completely different? And her husband said she hates flying. She like for her to have even got here and get on the plane, I can't even begin to tell you. So I sat with her for a little while, and just, because I was doing it every day then. So it was just like, I was just like saying, look, don't worry, I'm sat dead. I'm going to be right opposite you. I said, I'll hold your hand, and, at any point, just squeeze my hand. I'm here. I'll support you. And I think that helped her, knowing that she had obviously her husband, but there was somebody else there who would be there for her. But actually, more than anything, and she was fine. I mean, we took off. Once we were up in the air, she was fine. It was the taking off, I think, that completely threw her. And I gave her my hand and she almost took it. And I mean, literally took it. But, you know, that was a whole other story. And, but it was, for me, I was just fascinated in seeing that response, that level of fear. And I did say, you know, why are you traveling? Because I thought you can't go through this every time, possibly if you're going on holiday. But it was a family thing, and it was a, you know, we're definitely going to go this time because there was lots of things that they hadn't done before. And yeah, so they actually went, and then I saw them on the way back. And interestingly, on the way back, she said to me, she said, "Thank you so much for on the way out." She said, because for whatever reason, at the other end, when I got off and I knew I was going to be coming back, I just felt calmer. And she felt calmer because she suddenly realized that actually she had support. It wouldn't necessarily have been me. I mean, it was just a fluke that I happened to be on that same flight coming back. But she still had, you know, the fear hadn't gone, but it had reduced. And actually, and maybe it was the sensation of holding, you know, now we're talking about the body and the wisdom, holding, that allowed her to kind of release some of that tension. So there are ways, you know, there are experts in this field, and I am by no means an expert in desensitization, but I do believe that we can use things like PQ reps to prepare ourselves and prepare our bodies for those moments. And that the more that we do it, and we can actually use those like the PQ reps on the sensations, we can help to kind of bring more calmness to the body. And as Claudia's just said, yeah, sometimes all we need is empathy. Yeah, absolutely. And I think in that plane case, that was definitely, you know, that somebody was there to care and really care, and that person felt safer. So guess what? When you feel safer, what happens? Your cortisol levels can drop, parasympathetic system kicks in. So all of those things can really make a difference. And then I think the last thing that we just kind of wanted to touch on was around dieting. Always an interesting one.
Where do we start?
Where do we start with dieting? Well, first of all, I'll start with dieting by saying I've never dieted in my life. I've never, ever gone on a diet. And in fact, even when I used to compete, when dieting was a necessary part of the process, not really great. It just wasn't my thing. And I remember even then thinking, I'll train harder because the dieting thing just is like outside of my scope of understanding. I don't want to diet. I want to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it. That was pretty much how I saw it. I know. So naughty, and yet I didn't care. And but the reality is, and I think this is a really important thing, is, you know, why are we dieting? Now, you know, people say, well, I'm dieting because I want to lose weight. Okay, so you want to lose weight. What's fueling the desire to lose weight? Is it because, well, I love the thought of being in really great health, because that is a really lovely place to be coming from? Or is it because I hate my body, which is not a great place to be coming from? Because if you hate your body, you're going to keep on hating your body until you hit that very specific thing that you've probably got in your head. And if you don't hit it, you're going to continue hating your body, which for me is the thing that keeps the spiral going. You just keep on doing the same old. It didn't work. I go back to, and then I try again. It doesn't work. And it's, you hit that place. So you've got to be really, if you want to improve your health, which I would prefer to use than dieting, not because dieting is a bad word, but it has become really tied in with lots of very messy stuff. Yeah. If you want to improve your health, do it from a place of love. Like I love the thought of being able to get up every day and move with freedom and do the, you know, that's empathy for yourself and caring and loving for yourself. You will be far greater rewarded than if you're working from that place of hate. If you're, you know, literally, I look in the mirror, I can't even look in the mirror. I just don't even want to look in the mirror. I just look so awful. How do you get past that? Because do you understand the stress that you're putting on and into the body when you're feeling like that?
Yeah, the thing is that I'm on the other spectrum. I've dieted like throughout my life, and not because I was like so overweight, but I was never like at the weight that I wanted, or that's what I thought. The thing is that when you get to that mental picture of like how do I look and what will it be like if I lost like I don't know 5-10 pounds, because I'm not talking about like for me at least I never
Mm,
had to lose like so much. It's just that this would make the difference. And the thing is that you get there and you still don't see it, and
mm,
this is what creates that vicious cycle. And of course, like the extreme cases of that is that you start having the disorders that you can have with
yeah,
regards to food.
absolutely.
But yeah, you don't see it. I don't think I have ever like there have been times when I thought, okay, I've reached my goal, but even that was not really like the satisfying feeling that I was thinking of
Yeah,
before, because it wasn't the right reasons, as you
yeah,
said.
yeah.
From the moment that I decided that, okay, I'm not really dieting, I'm just making sure that I nourish myself in the right way and then, enjoy what I eat, and I can
Mm,
pick you up on that, then I don't have to worry. And that is such a relief.
yes,
Such a
of
relief,
course.
because as we grow older as well, we sort of like tend to put on some weight, but there is that, I want to say myth, because it hasn't really affected me, even though I have been a yo-yo weight person and dieting all the
Yes,
time. Like as I grow older, yes, it like I'm feeling that I am in control of my weight much more than I was when I was younger. Even though as you grow older, supposedly you don't lose weight so easily. But I believe that this is a myth. Maybe some people will think that that's not true, or they believe that that's the case. But I don't know.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I think that quite often people rely on willpower. I'm just deciding today that I'm going to change all my eating habits so that I can lose the weight or feel better, and whatever it is that they're tying into, and the thing is, willpower is fantastic, but it's an exhaustible resource. It just doesn't last forever and ever and ever and ever. So if at the end of your power source of willpower, you haven't got to where you want to go, those feelings, and actually something Claudia said earlier about feeling like a failure and all that all of those things can start to flood in. And guess what do? They probably kind of wind you up and get you back into that same here we go again, that
and
cycle.
worse. Yes.
And worse, definitely.
Because you give evidence to yourself that you cannot make it happen. So the
Yes,
more you do that,
yes.
you are, like empowering the saboteurs in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But a bit like you said, again, using PQ reps, being really mindful with how you eat. And I know when I did my nutrition coaching course, I'm not a nutritionist, but nutrition coaching, so helping people to change those habits. A lot of it ties really into PQ reps, like eating and tasting every bit of the food that you're having, and chewing and tasting, and how does it feel in the mouth. And it's amazing how when you completely slow down your eating to do this, the sensations of like fullness and stuff kick in much quicker than when you're just eating, and there's no pleasure in it. It's just eating, almost like eating for eating's sake. um,
Mm.
and of course there's also the bit about setting yourself up for success. If that's important to you, You know, if the weight thing, or, you know, just wanting to be healthier, wanting to nourish your body better, have better nutrition is important, then you have to also create the environment that supports that. There is no point in saying, I want all of this, but I've got 20 packets of crisp in the cupboard, 3 bars of chocolate, and, you know, and 3 bottles of wine. How are any of those things
I'll do it
going
after
to
they finish.
But, you know, it is, how are any of those things going to help? Because, you know, whilst they're there literally staring at you, you will just be pulled to them. And it's almost like, oh, well, if I just have that now and then it's done and then it's gone, you know, and before you know, you've replaced it all again. So it's, you have to set your environment up. But I think in terms of the habits, the daily habits, it's the, you know, when you're eating, really use mindfulness, really slow down, really taste your food, every mouthful, utilize it. Give your body the opportunity to know when it's full. Because most of the time, again, we're on the move, we're on the go, we just wham, 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 and we're not tasting the food. The body has lost any sense of sensation about whether it's full or not, because we've just thrown a pile of stuff down. But if we take that time and we slow down, and if we drink water and we replenish ourselves, and we also use water to fill us up, it doesn't always have to be the food. You know, it's just that mindfulness and actually feeling the body in a much calmer state when you're doing those things. When you're rushing around and eating, your body's not in a calm state. So
100%,
yeah, so there's real magic, or no, magic's not the word, but power in understanding how positive intelligence can help in these different areas. That can help you to feel healthier, that gives you that real sense of deep well-being, not the surface stuff. Because actually I wrote a post this week and we're talking about, you know, fitness, and, you know, are you just doing it because, you know, you don't need that thing of not liking what you're seeing, or, well, look how that person looks, and all of that stuff that we get caught up in. And actually it comes back to this: how do I feel? And what's my desire to feel like what? And what's it going to take for me to close that gap? And what are the small steps that I can take to make that my reality?
100%. And, you know, another trick that makes a big difference is to decide beforehand. There is so much power to that, and it's because it's not about, like, when you decide beforehand, you eliminate that sense of you know, the willpower, having to have the willpower. So what happens, like, for example, if I decide that, well, I'm invited to the party, but I'm not going to have dessert, and I have decided that, when the time comes for the dessert, it's not a matter of like, oh, can I have it? Can I not? Can I have it? Can I not? It's like, it's decided. It's done. I know it from the start that I'm not going to have it. So it makes a big difference when this happens, and it's a trick. And most of the times it works. But yeah, try it and let me know what you think. How does it, if it works for you?
And I think that's the exact point. Experiment. Some stuff will hit the mark, other stuff won't. It doesn't matter. There is no one set. It must be these things. Be willing to explore and experiment and find the things that work for you, and stop putting that pressure on that if this hasn't worked, then there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. It just wasn't for you. Find something else. You know, and if you're struggling to find something else, reach out to those who know and ask. Look for all the other different options and find those things. And I think that, you know, the worst thing that we do around wellness is the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves when we want to make the changes. Wanting to make the changes, fantastic. You know, looking after our body, looking after our mind, keeping ourselves well, putting in the right fuel so that we can function optimally. All wonderful and brilliant. wonderful and brilliant. But if we're doing it out of fear, if we're doing it out of pressure, if we're doing it because somebody else told us we should, that for me just changes everything. That for me just makes it so much more challenging, so much more difficult to do. And even though you can use willpower, it won't last forever. And even if you try the trick of being decisive, it only takes 1 week moment, even when you've made a decision, and that could be because somebody said something and it's triggered you. Somebody might upset you, and then you think, I'm going to have that cake now, right? So you and just it's like, and then if you do it and then let it go. This is not a tool now to bash yourself up with for the next 6, 7, 8 days, feeling like you're the worst person on the planet. And it's amazing how many people do it, though. It's like, yeah, but I know, and I shouldn't have, because I knew I shouldn't. And okay, so you knew you shouldn't, but you did. Okay, so what about today? What are you going to do differently today? Let's focus on that. Yeah, and it's the willingness to come back and just say, okay, it didn't work. Well, that I'm gonna go again, and I'm gonna go again, but take the lesson with me, right? Because all of these things are giving you lessons. What's the lesson I need to take with me?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying there, and I think that we take each step, or each day as a step, or make small steps. And I think that for people, especially when it comes to like dieting, but any of these things that we've discussed today, take one step, celebrate it. And if like something doesn't go the right way, well, let it go and start again. Because at the end of the day, we've all had a lot of training on all our bad habits for many, 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 many years. And we're just changing things for the better. And that takes time and courage and, like determination. So, take time to celebrate. It's important.
And that is I'm so glad that you added that, Evie, because that ability to celebrate every time you do something the way that you wanted, however small it is. I don't care if it's just that I remembered to write in my food diary, whatever it is that you're doing, that you remembered to celebrate it, because that also helps that neural pathway, the new one. Oh, when this happens, this is what she does. And you want to start creating that pathway that feels good when you do the good things that you want to do, right? And to counter away from this neural pathway that's so deeply ingrained, you've got to have that other pathway open up and just keep on going back until it becomes your way of doing things. And yes, as you said, it takes time, but is it doable? Absolutely, 100%.
Yep, absolutely.
Fabulous. Excellent. Well, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I think overstayed our welcome.
Of course. Nothing new there then. Nothing new there at all. Claudia, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all your comments. Really appreciate that. And I know that you had to go, but and it's always great to have some input and some thoughts that comes through on the chat. Any questions, any thoughts, anything that comes up for you, please reach out to us. We are open to that, open to being challenged, open to learn. Because if you know something that I don't, and I'm sure you probably do, share it. So, we're all about expanding too. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we have started Permission to Thrive, so that we can come together, learn together, grow together. There is no better place to grow than in community, and that is something that we are absolutely committed to. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching on replay, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Evie.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.